The valley of Vareth Prime held a kind of silence Jake Morrison had learned to fear. A silence that pressed against the skin, warning of something unseen. The human convoy crawled along the narrow path between towering cliffs, 5 armored vehicles moving with rigid precision. At their center was the diplomatic transport, heavily reinforced yet painfully vulnerable. Inside, Jake stood with the poise of someone who had survived too much to trust calm weather. Every vibration of the tires through the mineral desert felt like a coded message. Vareth Prime had once been fertile, but now its jagged stone ridges and still shadows resembled a battlefield waiting to awake. Among the passengers was Queen Asara of the Christians. Her body shimmered like living glass, every subtle movement refracting light. Her expression was serene, but it was the kind of serenity shaped by discipline, not peace. 6 colossal Christian guards surrounded her, their armor fused to their skin in seamless organic lines. They moved like beings sculpted for war, each step resonating faintly in the air. Jake didn't understand their language, but instinct was universal, and something in the valley felt wrong. The wind shifted, the dust spiraled tightly, and even the usual metallic buzz of Vareth's mining insects had vanished. Jake signaled the driver to slow the convoy. Moments later, a blinding flash consumed the lead vehicle. The explosion tore the air apart. Jake slammed into the wall, shielding the diplomat as the transport shook under a force like a giant's blow. The second vehicle erupted next, heat lighting the interior of the transport as it tried to turn, but the canyon was too narrow. The world spun as the vehicle tipped and rolled, metal screaming against stone. When everything settled, fire cast flickering colors across the wreckage. Jake forced the hatch open and crawled into the open air, where gunfire and footsteps echoed between the cliffs. Looters, desperate, scavenged fighters, emerged from the rocks with hungry eyes and rusted weapons. Jake spotted Queen Asara among twisted metal, her guards struggling to regain formation. They were disoriented but trying to protect her. He started toward them, but then the second missile struck. The blast ripped the earth apart, sending dust and shards of armor into the air. When the roar faded, the impossible happened. The Christian guards, famed across systems for unwavering loyalty, faltered. One dropped his spear, another stepped back, and then, one by one, they fled, leaving their queen lying wounded and exposed. Jake stared in disbelief. Her people had abandoned her, the one they were sworn to die for. Every instinct demanded retreat. Logic insisted that fleeing was survival, but something deeper, the part of a soldier that speaks only in life or death moments, whispered a different command. Stay. And so Jake ran toward her, not because he was ordered, not because it made sense, but because some truths cut deeper than fear. That single act, born in the smoke of the valley, would alter the destiny of 2 worlds. The pain hit Jake first, not like a strike, but like a reminder that his body was still trying to decide if it was alive. The transport lay on its side, half buried in rocks, half hanging over a shallow cliff. Red emergency lights blinked over broken glass, smoke, and unmoving faces. Jake forced the hatch open and stumbled into the cold air of Vareth Prime. Explosions echoed through the mountains, and wreckage burned across the road, filling the valley with the smell of plasma, oil, and death. Then came the voices, harsh, disorganized, human, looters. Dozens climbed down the cliffs with scavenged armor and stolen Christian weapons. Jake grabbed his rifle and ran for cover as bullets shattered the ground near him. A crystalline cry made him turn. Queen Asara lay among the debris, her luminous skin dulled by soot. Her guards circled her, confused and shaken, discipline crumbling under terror. Before Jake could react, the second missile struck, throwing bodies and metal across the valley. When the dust settled, Jake saw the unthinkable. The elite Christian guards, wounded and terrified, looked at the approaching swarm of enemies and fled. One dropped his spear. Another stepped back. Then all 6 turned and abandoned their queen. Asara was alone. Jake's stomach twisted. She tried to move, but the looters were closing in fast. Every part of his brain yelled to retreat, but his heart commanded otherwise. He ran. Dust exploded under his boots, bullets sang past his head, and he slid to the ground beside her, putting his body between her and the oncoming fire. "Stay down!" he yelled. She understood. Jake fired. One precise shot, then another, dropping attackers as they appeared from the rocks. But there were too many. He dragged her toward a rock formation, both of them sprinting through gunfire until they dove behind cover. Her wound glowed blue like liquid energy. Jake sealed it with a quick spray. The material crystallized instantly. She trembled but held steady. "Why did you stay?" she whispered. "Because it was right. You are human, I am not. Right doesn't choose species." For a moment, everything was quiet. Too quiet. More enemies approached. Jake took them down with 2 sharp shots, but he knew the truth. They were surrounded, and time was running out. As darkness fell over the valley, something unspoken formed between them. Something born from fear, courage, and the refusal to abandon another being. And Jake realized that in this dying battlefield, the choice of one man might be enough to change the fate of 2 worlds. The valley breathed smoke and fear. The sun died behind the mountains, staining the sky dark red as if the planet itself were bleeding. Jake leaned against the rock, rifle on his knee, ears sharp for any sound beyond the crackling fires. Dust stuck to his face, sweat burned in his cuts, and every second felt stretched thin. Queen Ara stood a few meters away, her torn cloak revealing crystal-like skin that caught the firelight. Her wounds shimmered like liquid stars. She didn't cry or shake, but her eyes carried something Jake understood. Disappointment. Her guards had fled. Enemies were closing in, and the ruler of the Christian Empire was on the edge of breaking. Jake broke the silence. "How many do you think are still out there?" "Many," she said, "and more will come. Death calls death. Then we'll have company." She studied his calm tone, puzzled by his humor. Human irony still escaped her. Gunshots echoed closer. The valley was a trap, and they both knew it. "Can you move?" Jake asked. She nodded, though pain made her wince. "There's a passage to the right. If we climb those rocks, we might get a view, and maybe cover." "You shouldn't have stayed," she murmured. "Yeah, I've heard that before. I don't always listen." Ara hesitated, showing something rare for her kind: uncertainty. "My people believe logic is our strength. Acting without calculation is madness." "Sometimes madness keeps us alive," Jake said. They climbed together under fire, Jake shooting to clear space while Ara covered awkwardly with the pistol he'd given her. Her aim was poor, but courage isn't accuracy, it's persistence. From a higher platform, they saw the ruined convoy and the growing darkness. "We'll stay here for now," Jake said. "They can't see well at night." "And you?" "I can't either, but I'm good at missing up close." They shared a necessary silence, breathing with the wind. 2 beings from different worlds held together by the oldest instinct, survival. Jake finally asked, "Do you trust your guards?" "I did, until today." "Fear does that." "No, fear warns. They didn't flee from fear, they fled by choice." "Wrong one," Jake muttered. She watched him. "And you, Jake Morrison, why did you stay?" "Because it was the right thing to do." "Right," she repeated softly, "even when it's not worth it. Between calculation and instinct, you chose instinct." "No," he said, "I chose honor. Honor." A word her people had abandoned long ago, yet she felt it again. He carried it. Torches lit on the far side of the valley. "They'll flank us," Jake said. "Stay here." "And you?" "I'll handle it." "I'm coming too." "No. You gave me a weapon. Don't deny me the right to use it." He hesitated, then nodded. "Fine. But promise me you won't die easily." "I am a queen. I do not die easily." They moved together among the rocks. Jake shot the first attacker. Ara missed the second, but hit the third. Her shot echoed like a spark of defiance. Minutes stretched into hours as they fought. Jake's rifle grew hot. Ara's pistol dimmed. When the last enemy fell back, the valley went silent again, heavy with dust and racing hearts. They collapsed beside a rock. Ara looked at him and whispered, "If we die here, know that you reminded me why we once fought for something greater than ourselves." Jake met her gaze, exhausted. "Then it's still worth fighting." The wind carried away the smell of gunpowder, and the silence that followed was no longer empty. It was the silence where fear slowly begins to turn into hope. Night fell over Vareth Prime like a heavy curtain. The sky, once red, was now an ocean of darkness, lit only by burning vehicles and slow spirals of smoke. The wind carried cold dust and the bitter taste of death. Jake and Ara rested against a broad stone, exhausted, wounded, but alive. For now. Below them, looters regrouped among the wreckage, their shadows shifting in the firelight. 30 or more still stood, armed and searching. They knew survivors were hiding among the rocks. Jake changed his rifle magazine, the metallic click echoing too loudly. Ara watched him. "How many bullets?" 31. "And enemies?" "Enough for all of them." "You know you can't win," she said quietly. "I don't need to win. I just need to buy you time." Her expression tightened. Indignation, fear, something human. "I don't want to be saved while you die." "Yeah, well, neither of us got a choice today." The first wave climbed the rocks, shouting. Jake inhaled deeply. Showtime. He rose and fired with cold precision. 1, 2, 3 bodies down. Ara watched in disbelief as the exhausted human moved with relentless purpose. But more attackers swarmed from every direction, tightening the noose. "When I say run, you run," Jake ordered. "I won't leave you." "You will. That's an order." "You have no authority over me." "In this valley, I do. I'm the only one still standing." Something changed in her eyes. Not obedience, but understanding. "If I go," she said softly, "you come with me." "I can't promise that. Promise you'll try." Jake gave a tired smile. "Deal." The enemy advanced. Ara lifted the pistol he'd given her. Her first shot missed. Her second struck a looter's shoulder, dropping him. She flinched, shocked, but Jake shouted, "That's it! Keep going!" Shot after shot, she grew steadier, fear channeled into fury. The queen who never fought was fighting. A grenade landed near them. Jake threw himself over her as it exploded, filling the air with dust and ringing silence. When their eyes met, something shifted. The cold crystal gaze turned suddenly warm, painfully alive. "Are you all right?" he whispered. "I should be asking you," he laughed weakly. "Still breathing. That counts." Then, a new sound. Engines. Jake raised his head. Lights cut through the darkness. Human reinforcements. But the looters, desperate, launched one final attack toward the queen. Jake fired, but there were too many, until a massive figure dropped from the cliffs, smashing enemies aside. Kelrin, the Christian guard who had fled, had returned, roaring Ara's name as he tore through the looters with brutal force. Ara shouted something in her language, a name, a plea, a recognition. Kelrin fought like a creature begging for forgiveness. Jake joined the push, and moments later the reinforcements swept through. Drones, soldiers, floodlights tearing open the night. Minutes later, the valley fell silent again. Bodies, smoke, and cold wind drifting through the ruins. Jake dropped to his knees, drained. Ara approached him, eyes soft. Kelrin stood beside her, wounded but unbroken. "My queen," he said, kneeling. "I failed you, but I will not fail again." There was anger in her gaze, and sorrow. But there was forgiveness too. Jake pushed himself up. "Beautiful speech," he muttered, "but let's finish it inside a ship before someone fires another missile." Kelrin lifted the queen. Jake led the way through the wreckage as human soldiers secured the valley. The battlefield was covered in fire and death, but among the ashes, something fragile and new was rising. Hope. The dawn over Vareth Prime seemed impossible. After so much fire, the sky finally opened, and the mountains released smoke and light as if they were breathing again. In the evacuation transport, Jake was exhausted. arms bandaged, trying to understand how he was still alive. A few meters away, Queen Ara rested under translucent blankets, monitored by human machines that barely understood her biology. Between the two, a silence of survival. On the ship Valiant, Jake recovered slowly. Soldiers looked at him with respect, diplomats with distrust. He didn't care. Ara, isolated and still fragile, accepted the presence of only one person. Him. "You disappeared," she said. "I was resting. I rest better when I know that the one who saved me is still breathing." He smiled. "And you? Are you alive?" "More than I should be." Months passed. The Queen's survival changed everything. Star systems began to negotiate peace. Humans and Christians, tired of the war, decided to try something new. Jake became a symbol unintentionally. The soldier who stayed. On the day of the peace signing, Ara descended the ramp with silver and blue garments, symbol of union. "Reason alone does not build bridges," she declared before the crowd. "A human showed me this. Today, I declare the end of the war." Afterwards, before the memorial of crystal and metal, Ara said, "You only had to have fled." "It's frightening," said Jake. "How everything depends on small choices." "Frightening and beautiful," she answered. At sunset, they decided the next step. "Now we show the universe that peace is possible," said Jake. "You will not be alone," promised Ara. When the ship departed, Jake looked at the reborn planet and thought, sometimes, the universe only needs someone who decides to stay. The war was over. Their story was just beginning. But this is only one of the many stories forgotten at the frontiers of time. If you've made it this far, subscribe to the channel Echoes of the Last Era to hear more tales of lost worlds, forbidden loves, and secrets hidden among the stars. Leave a like, share, and until the next Echo.